Well, welcome. I'm Joni Cooper, Director of Programming for the DocLands Documentary Film Festival, and I'm delighted to have both Emmy-nominated director-producer Yael and producer Morgan Spector here to chat about their very timely film, The Big Scary S Word. Yael took part in the DocLands doc pitch last year and managed to take away some helpful funds for the project.
Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, it was fun. I was nervous, and it was a pleasure.
It was such fun. I can't tell you how much I enjoy Doc Pitch, partly for the camaraderie that you see amongst the filmmakers, and plus, I get to give away money to filmmakers, which is my most favorite thing to do in the world.
Yeah, I mean, and it really meant a lot to the project. It was,
Really
early enough on that it really gave us a big boost in morale, and also, remembering being able to watch even just a piece of it with a live audience, and to have that back and forth, and just there were so many questions and stuff afterwards that it was very exciting and it kept us going. So thank you so much for that opportunity. Yeah, it was a real pleasure.
Our pleasure. Well, congratulations. Here we are for your world premiere. That's exciting for all of us here to see it finally come to fruition. So well done on that.
Thank you.
And I have to say, being Canadian, I have always been so very curious about what people from the US have against socialism. In my mind, it really is something that helps an entire society, and it's a good thing. And I've also noticed through these trying times that we're living through the pandemic, I do see more and more Americans calling for elements, even the upper crust, that seems to stem from a socialist vision, like more freely available employment assistance funding. And yeah, I of course hearken back to 2008. It's like, I'm not ever going to understand how the banks received a bailout and the people never received anything.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
I mean, there is a pretty good explanation for why that happened, but I think a lot of people spend a lot of time trying not to see that explanation because it requires us to transform our society, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now, was there a specific catalyst that drove you both to making this film?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the last presidential primary season, and seeing Bernie call himself a socialist and do phenomenally well, and not just in areas that we might have expected, but sort of across the country and in urban, rural, educated, non-educated. It sort of cut across the line. We were like, oh, there's a real shift that's happening here. Like, this label that I would have thought was a giant stigma is not. And why is that? And what does that mean? And what does this word mean? I mean, also there were times people who were saying, oh yeah, I'm a socialist, but do you know what that word means? That's history. And so wanting to sort of explore what that was like, and also this burgeoning movement that's now, quite a force to be reckoned with in this country.
Yeah, no kidding. And I have to say that I really teared up when Bernie was speaking in the film at Lee Carter's rally, because I just kept thinking, wow, what could have been, what might have been, if the Democrats had gotten behind Bernie either time he ran, would it have been a good thing?
Would it have been a good thing? I mean, I guess that depends what what your priorities are, what you value.
Do you think, is the question, would he have won?
If he had won.
Bernie won. I mean, yeah. I think, he did well in precisely the places that Hillary Clinton did badly, and crucially badly, by those slimmest of possible margins that delivered Trump the Electoral College victory. And also, I think, broadly speaking, Bernie's strategy, which he, I think, pursued again this electoral cycle, of expanding the electorate beyond, to include more people who have started to feel that the the blue team and the red team don't necessarily advocate for their interests. I think that is a much more effective general election strategy than primary election strategy. So yes, I think yes. And obviously looking around now, I think this country feels like it's in the grip of the problems, the problems that we could all list with, 21st century American capitalism. I think we really feel that we are experiencing those problems directly now. And Bernie, even Elizabeth Warren's vision spoke to solutions to those problems, solutions that were at the scale of those problems. And so far, Biden, I think, has failed to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I just have to back up a bit, Morgan. How did you get involved with the film? You're not typically a producer, you're an actor, is that right?
No, yeah, I'm an actor. And I guess, I used to be on Twitter and I'm not anymore. And I, through that, got to know a couple of people in the sort of world of, like, a couple of journalists in the world of the left, people connected to Jacobin magazine. And it was right after the election. I was really casting about for something to do. I think I felt like, something, this was I don't know. I like Yael, I've been watching the Sanders campaign and feeling like there was something new here. There was the kernel of something very hopeful and something that hadn't existed in a real active, hadn't been a going concern in American politics for a long time. And sort of had this moment where Yael and I had been wanting to work together on something. We were friends. We went to the same college, and she had been working in Doc, and I had been getting curious just because of a few conversations that she and I had had about films that she'd been working on, about what it would be like to be involved in the production of a documentary. And so this sort of moment came along where it felt like, okay, I think I've got a toehold into this world, into this community. Maybe we could, maybe this is a thread worth pulling on for a while. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Good on you. Through the interviews with people on the street, you guys got some differing definitions of socialism. I suspect you got quite a few more than were in the film. Did you get a lot of more thoughtful answers and more positive answers than what was shown in the film?
I think it really depends where and when we were doing those. And so, the first time we did them, which was probably like one of the early shooting that we had done on the film, no, I mean, not really. I mean, we were on Brooklyn and in Manhattan and New York, and it wasn't more informed. It was sort of, like a large variety. And unfortunately, it was also like really easy to sort of predict by looking at someone what their answers were going to be. And then, over the course of the film, we did a few more of those in Miami and just different places where we were filming. But, we weren't filming in particularly like hot, like socialist hubs, and so I wasn't getting a lot of like really technical like this is, a dictionary definition. And also it's a really hard word to define. So, I'm not sure if you asked me what the definition was, I'd be able to come up with something particularly pithy. I'd probably, circle around some things for a long time and then say like, was that a yes? Did I do it?
Yeah, no, I understand. But to hear, I guess it was Cornell say, that socialism really is as American as apple pie. And I thought, wow, that was really interesting. And of course, then you go on to explain how that came to be, how that statement is indeed true. And I just thought that was such a terrific statement to have in the film.
Yeah.
Mel gets a good copy.
Yeah, I mean, Cornel West is a fantastic person to interview. Everything was hard to cut his interview. Everything he said was fantastic. So
yeah, that's nice to have somebody like that involved.
yeah.
Now, I think it was John Nichols who said in the film that, what was it, socialism is the ultimate expression of democracy. Do you think that that's a true statement, or do those who identify as democratic socialists believe this?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that, there's also that moment when we had, where when you think about the early socialist party, sort of pre-Red Scare, the socialists, the sort of Debs era socialists who arose out of the labor movements of the late, 19th century, they absolutely believed, they had just come out of Reconstruction too, right? The question of what kind of country this was going to be was still very much in the air, and America was still transitioning from being an agrarian nation to, a wage-earning, urban industrial nation. And so this sense of progress and destiny and the country sort of perfecting itself was really in the air. And these people believed, these early socialists, really believed that socialism was the way to fulfill the American promise. I think that was really how they saw it. And so, yeah, I think that understanding is as valid as any understanding of socialism, for sure.
Yeah.
Particularly here.
Yeah. I also found it not surprising, but I certainly didn't realize how the civil rights movement was influenced by socialism, and to see where we are now. It, again, to me, seems like, well, maybe those two will work together more closely again.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. No, I hope so. I think that's what we keep. There was this wonderful moment, actually, Boots Riley, who spoke to for this film, was pointing this out, that there was, the longshoremen's union in the Bay Area struck for a weekend. They shut down one of the ports, I think the port of Oakland. I'm not sure if they shut down the whole coast or if they just shut down that one port in support of these protests and the support of Black Lives Matter. And yeah, that kind of coordination between sort of like broader working class movements and civil rights movements, I think would be astonishingly powerful.
Yeah, I did hear about that strike. That was pretty darn amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any surprises that you came across to yourselves while making the film?
Yeah, I think there were plenty of surprises. I think, I wasn't as aware of the socialist history that we had in this country. And so I think just the sheer fact that there is so much socialist history in this country was surprising. And then going into different bits and pieces and going, oh, Oklahoma had actually that's not even in the film, but Oklahoma had like a thriving socialist community, or North Dakota had the Bank of North Dakota, and that was founded by socialists. And just sort of looking at 100 years ago, what was going on was interesting. Like Morgan was saying, when the country was when we were still developing and figuring out who we were, there was a lot of socialist influence going on in all different arenas.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the information about the Bank of North Dakota. That to me was really surprising and pretty spectacular. Yeah.
Yeah, and they certainly don't identify as socialists now, and they don't like talking about that history particularly. And the Bank of North Dakota is the jumping off point for governors and senators and stuff in the state. So I think, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure like the current governor of North Dakota was previously like the president of the bank. And so, they all pass through this bank, which is pretty socialist, in terms of, how it was set up and what it was aimed to achieve. And yet they're like, oh, well, we're not any of this, but we really love this thing. And sort of like, you'll see people saying like, get your government hands off my Medicare. And it's like, okay, there's some disconnect going on that we should figure out. I'm not sure it's serving us.
Yeah. Well, even the bit about Medicare, because in Canada, Medicare was started by a socialist premier, which is the equivalent of a governor. Mm-hmm. And it was actually in the early days, the doctors went on strike because they didn't want the government taking control of it. But the strike, I think, only lasted about 20 days. And within 10 years, the whole country had universal health care. Started with one province, yeah.
Yeah, I think at some point when Medicare for All or national system was proposed in the US, it was also opposed by the AMA and the majority of doctors. But I think that recently changed, didn't it? Am I wrong that the AMA now supports Medicare for All? I think that might have happened in the last couple of years, which is a sea change.
Yeah.
If I'm not completely making that up, which I might be.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope you're not making it up, because even from the standpoint in Canada, that totally makes sense in the long run. One of the other surprising factors in your film was that the Republican Party was actually started by socialists. So
that's a wild fact.
Yeah, crazy. It's like, okay, well.
And just how, that Marx was writing for the New York Tribune, that he was part of the sort of the discourse, I guess, during the time of Lincoln, I think is really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
Especially since, he would go on to become so demonized over the next 150 years. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That, it was such different times. Any favorite moments from the film?
Any favorite moments? I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of moments that stand out. It was really fun filming with our characters, with Lee and Stephanie, who, we've grown to be quite close with, and that was always fun filming with them and getting to know them and be on their journey a little bit. I think probably the thing that just stuck with me the most was when I was interviewing Naomi Klein. I asked her if she was hopeful, and she's like, am I full of hope? No, I have some hope. I also have all of these other things. And then she goes on and talks about, raw terror and stuff. And I think that just really struck me and still is as I look around and I go, okay, well, like, I guess that for me, I could go on about hope as a practice and how to, but I don't know. Morgan, did you have a favorite?
I was actually going to say the same thing. I was thinking of that interview with her. I thought just because I'm actually not even sure. I'm thinking now, I can't remember if this is in the cut now or not, but when she talked about sort of whether she called herself a socialist or like what she felt we needed, just like she was so clear that, we needed something transformative and we needed something new that we've never seen before in order to save our own lives. And, I definitely think that there are people from the left who look at this sort of Bernie democratic socialist moment and say, this is not really socialism. This is basically FDR liberalism or European style social democracy. But whatever you call it, it's a new strain in this country. And it is, I think, an important possibility if we stand any chance of facing down sort of what's happening, particularly in terms of climate. So that moment with her was, I think, really, really powerful.
She certainly is a tremendous speaker and thoughtful person.
Yeah.
I think part of my favorite area is just seeing Stephanie get her voice and realize that, she felt so strongly about everything, of course, that she had to step up. She had to do it. And she really turned into quite a dynamo.
Yeah, her journey was really just a remarkable thing to witness and to see and, participate and document in. And she's a powerful woman and a really fantastic speaker and really just she's inspiring. So, yeah.
Have you been in touch with her at all through COVID? It's got to be just a horrendous time for teachers.
It is, yeah. She is no longer living in Oklahoma, so she moved. I guess that's the biggest Stephanie development. And I'm really happy for her that she was able to find a new place to live that was maybe a little more sustainable.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And I mean, of course, the good news about Lee Carter being elected again was so fantastic. What an uphill battle.
Well, and just like a huge change that happened in the Senate. You know, it wasn't just Lee Carter was reelected. That's fantastic and that's important. And, you know, we didn't get into the details of his reelection, but it was quite complicated. And he did get a pretty serious primary challenge. And it wasn't clear he was going to win. But that also, the House flipped. And so now they're a Democratic majority, and he was suddenly able to pass all of these things. And so were a lot of other Democrats, and sort of looking at Lee, not just as a socialist, but someone when you're like how to govern on a larger scale. And so if you have someone who's out there that looks really far left or fringe or whatever, and they can be out there for a little bit on their own, just pushing and pushing and not getting anything done, that sort of does inspire, if those are your politics and you agree with it, it can have, you know, quite a, whatever the expression is, like a ripple out effect that can last and lead to greater changes.
Yeah, yeah, which we did kind of see with all the young Democrats. Yeah, that was just amazing. Are you hopeful about what's going to happen this year during the elections? It's a tough one. Yeah.
No,
You want to take that one?
I'm not hopeful at all. I think, you know, I'm trying to practice hope. I'm really trying to look at it as not a state that you just wake up in, but sort of how to look for it, where to find it. And it's very hard. You know, it's very hard these days. Not, you know, it's COVID. I live in Oakland. My state's on fire. You know, it just like everything is really quite hard right now. And so, no, when you're asking specifically about the election, I'm also not hopeful about that. And frankly, you know, there's a lot of people in this country, you know, I mean, that are going to be upset with whatever the results are, and not just like a little upset, are going to feel robbed and really screwed over. And it's just going to increase the cynicism and degradation that people have in systems and the ability of government to do good. And I have a very core value that government is us, is the people, and it is there for us to collectively work together. And so if that system, people lose faith in that's really hard. That I don't really know where we go from there. So no matter what the results are, there's a lot of work that happened. So I'm not even really thinking so much about the election as sort of what does the next decade look like, and what are we going to do to try and rebuild that faith and that, you know, coalition and, I don't know, solidarity.
Yeah. And not to mention, you know, like you said, what's going on with climate change and the fact that it seems like the Democratic Socialists are the only ones who are really thinking big in terms of climate change and social issues, which it's just mind-boggling that the Republicans just kind of turn their heads.
Don't believe it. Yeah.
What is it going to take for them to believe it?
I don't know.
Oh, they believe it. They believe it. Everybody believes it.
Yeah, they just don't care.
They just no. It's just like, you know, they want it. The people that they serve, the actual bloc that they serve, wants to keep making money on it. They've known about it since the 70s. There's all those minutes of their meetings. They know. Everybody knows. It's just, you know, they want to keep making the money until the world burns, and they figure they'll be all right.
Yeah,
Without that, they don't care.
And it's not just Republicans or, you know, it's Democrats.
No, that's right. Not at all.
Yeah, I don't feel like, you know, the state government where I live is certainly doing what we could possibly be doing to help with at all. I mean, I don't want to point finger, yeah, but there's like a lot of more things that we could be doing here that we're just not doing. And you know, and California is Democrat run in every way. Right. And we're still on fire. So I don't think it's fair to say, when are the Republicans going to get it? Like, when is everyone going to get it? How are we going to learn, where the problems lie? And it's not individuals, and it's not even just saying like, oh, there's certain people are like good or bad, it's you're just really looking like at a much higher angle to see how systems are working and how could they be working differently.
Yeah. Well, and also the fact that none of us seem willing to change how we live. So that also is a huge cog in finding the solution, because we're not willing to step back or go back. And I think like you say, it's going to take all of us to make change. And maybe I actually am one of the people who really believe that this whole COVID thing is Mother Nature saying, back to your rooms, think about what you've done, come out smarter. And we're not doing it. We're not even, we're in our rooms, but we're not thinking about how to do it differently.
I really think this is, obviously individual choices are going to matter, but in terms of dealing with this problem effectively, it can't be dealt with. We can't clean up our own, it can't be, we can't recycle more and recycling more and consuming less. Those kinds of choices are going to be part of the solution, but it has to be handled at the state level. And that's why I think, it is so hopeful that you see democratic socialists entering the House and various other levels of government in greater and greater numbers, and all over the country right now. And that's why too it's so frustrating to see people like Nancy Pelosi, who every time anybody mentions her name, they should say Nancy the Green Dream or whatever Pelosi. That should be how we refer to her now from here on out forever, because anybody who's not fighting for something, everybody who's in government now who's not fighting for a way to address that problem at like global scale is absolutely facilitating they are absolutely a climate denier to the same degree that somebody who's pretending, that because it still snows, climate change doesn't happen. It is that they are the same part of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. These people have children. I don't understand. They all have children. And their children are going to want to have children. It's just mind-boggling. Yeah. Are there any other points that you guys would like to make around what any of us could do, or how to get involved, or any just salient points that you'd like to bring out from all you've learned through all this research you've done?
Yeah, I guess I just, thinking about, I'm sure there are many people who disagree with me, but I think, if you sort of look at what's got to happen in this country in order for meaningful change to happen, I think there are two. One, we have to rebuild the union movement in this country. We need many, many, many more people in unions, and we need those unions active, rank and file driven, and fighting for meaningful material change in the lives of working people. And we also need electoral power that is actually looking to essentially a true populist strategy, as Thomas Frank points out in his recent book, actually, which I would recommend to everyone. But that, we've been calling Trump a populist, Bernie a populist, it's become a meaningless word. But Bernie actually did run on a populist platform because he's really talking about addressing the needs of the people. And I think that there are a lot of people who are checked out of this process. And I think the strategy that Bernie, he thought he could bring a lot more people in. One election cycle is not enough to do that. We need to be working that in every single election cycle, in the midterms, because I think that really is the only way to harness the fact that most people don't want to see the world burn. Most people do have kids. They want health care. They want a sustainable, environment. They want all these sort of common sense things. We just have to bring more of those people back into this process. And in order to do that, we have to give them things that change their lives in a positive and meaningful, material way. And so the Democratic Party has to learn that lesson. And, I hope we can contribute to that in some way. I think that's what we're hoping to do.
Well, I just see it as quite an important film right now at this time, despite the situation that is out there now, because it does give people another picture. It gives people more understanding of what can be. And to your point about unions, it has been shown, and strikes take away the services and the products, and things have to change. But it's hard to have those people be on strike for so long, because their lives are made even harder by doing that.
But if all those people who were essential workers were all in unions,
yes,
we'd be looking at a very different world right now, because I think they all would have said nope.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good point. Yeah, and that was, yeah. Well, we still might get there. This thing isn't over yet.
Very true.
We're fighting.
We're still depending on all those essential workers, that's for sure. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you, Joni. This was lovely.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us and watching your brand new film. I'm so thrilled that it's finished, and it will have come a long way, I think, since the first cut I saw back in February, March.
A while ago, a year at least, yeah.
It's definitely come a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.